Hello and welcome to another amazing part of What If Garp Changed the Future? Professional Ranter wrote this amazing story. Please support them. Don't forget to like, sub, and leave a comment. Now let's dive in. Marco could feel his eye twitch as he watched Whitebeard pouting. Pops, what do you mean this is Garp's fault? Two other attacks by him and his son happen at the same time as Boa Hancock declaring herself an emperor and she can summon hockey beasts. Garp has something to do with it. Whitebeard muttered as he moved to grab some alcohol before he realized there wasn't any near him. Bring me some booze. Marco pinched the bridge of his nose. No, Pops. You said it yourself, you want to get better so you can get a bigger bounty than Garp you are. It seems his crew has become stronger before the Trident attack, the name that Morgans had given the massive attack. There were several attacks by them. The Marines lost a lot of bases in Paradise, and in East and South Blue there were a collective of 3 attacks you are. There was even word that one of them killed a noble that had just become a Celestial, Thatch said as he gave Whitebeard his meal, and there were reports of a few Cypher Pole bases being attacked from what Morgan said. I heard they attacked a Celestial's vacation home, Zehaha. Teach laughed. Of course he and his crew did all of that, why wouldn't they? Whitebeard huffed as he ate his food. Marco had put him on a strict diet that Thatch was helping keep him on. With Kaido. Wurrororo. Kaido laughed loudly as he slapped his leg. A 5th Emperor of the Sea. This crisis is so much fun. King looked at the part of the newspaper talking about Bogart's attacks, which was accompanied with a picture of him flying in front of a flaming base. That kind of power, it's almost on my level. But even with his fight with Mihawk, he didn't use any of his tribe's techniques. If I can just see them, then I'll know where he comes from. That ship of theirs, I want to take it apart and see how it works, Queen whispered to himself gleefully. He recognized the Germa technologies used in it. Oh, what I wouldn't give for some of Judge's blueprints. Garp, you have brought me so much entertainment, you better come fight me. Kaido smiled, his lust for battle leaking out. Garp the End, will you come to Wano soon? We need your help, Yamato thought to himself as he watched his father celebrate this massive shift in power. With Shanks? Shanks slashed the air with his sword and sent out a wave of haki that sunk the attacking ship. As he sheathed it, Ben shoved a newspaper in his face. A new Emperor of the Sea, huh? Shanks questioned as he took the newspaper. You want to bet Garp's involved? That's a losing bet and you know it, Shanks, Rue said through the meat he was eating. Garp's involved in a lot of stuff right now. I was referring to him being directly involved. Shanks chuckled as walked to the nearby table and sat down. He poured himself some sake and sipped at it. Wonder how Morgans figured out Captain Roger discovered me at God Valley's remains, but those books he's published recently are really shaking things up. Things are going to be a lot harder for you, Luffy, when you set out. There's now a 5th Emperor who's directly in Paradise in one of the blues. Kaido only has a single island, but Hancock has taken an entire blue. Things are going to change rapidly. I wonder if Garp will be coming to New World soon, Shanks pondered out loud. You're going to be spectacular, Luffy. With Big Mom. Mama. Lin laughed as she looked at the cowering pirates that had tried to attack her. You think that just because an emperor was able to ascend in Paradise that us in New World are easy? Idiots. An emperor has unbelievable strength. It doesn't matter what sea they come from. Katakuri looked at his mother in shock. She's changed so much since her hunger pains ceased, but she's been talking about wanting something. Hopefully it's just new races to be added to her family. I don't want her pains to hurt us again. I will fight her if it comes to that. Lin cut the pirates down with Napoleon. Katakuri, send a welcoming gift to this new emperor. The world government has lost their balance now. The red line no longer defines it. Mama. With Morgans. Sir, our people have begun surveillance on most of the warlords. One of the reporters told Morgans, who was hard at work at a typewriter. We're unable to do full surveillance on Maman Bridget, Crocodile, Doflamingo, and Gecko Moria, but we are keeping an eye on their areas for any events. Excellent. And how is the research coming along for my upcoming books? Morgans asked. He had decided to turn his expose on Germa and God Valley as books, creating a delivery system by working with a pirate, Buggy the Clown. Buggy the Clown has helped put us in contact with a few people that would know about some of the crews of old, including the Rumbar pirates. Another reporter told him, the payments coming in for your books keep coming in as more people ask for the truth. Our research has also begun into other pirate crews. Your writing team has already begun putting in the work for the books on the Rocks Pirates and the Roger Pirates. A reporter passed Morgan some food. How is your work on the Constellation crew coming along? Very good, keep up the work on uncovering more of their actions. Morgans ordered as the others left to get back to work. And begin research into past fleet admirals. Let's begin making books on them as well, starting with Kong. I have a feeling he's going to do something big while he's temporary fleet admiral. Morgans began to laugh as mania leaked into his eyes. Monkey D. Garp, you have opened the gates of heaven to me. I can't wait to write more stories on you. Sir, our people at Sabaody just sent word that the Constellation crew has come back. They think they're getting ready to head for New World. A reporter ran into the room, panting for breath. They're currently raising chaos against the Marines and pirates of the archipelago. Put them to work right away. Get me everything that they do there and get our people at Fishman Island ready to observe him. Morgans yelled out, finally he's about to come against the Emperors. Rayleigh chuckled as he walked up to Garp, who sat atop a large pile of pirates and Marines. Now that's a familiar sight, although you were standing last time. The coding is all done. Got anything else you have to do? Nah. Garp jumped from the pile to stand in front of Rayleigh. The others should be done with their training. Rayleigh's sweat dropped at Garp describing the chaos his crew had put the archipelago as training. So we'll get going once we make sure we have all of our supplies for the journey. Rayleigh bumped him with his shoulder. Sounds like a plan. You know, Roger always wanted to go on a journey with you. He would have loved to see you doing this. Garp let out a loud laugh as he walked with Rayleigh to the granting wish. Sounds just like him. He let out a fond sigh. You know, I met him at Goa, long before he set out to be a pirate, and I went to the academy. We were both homeless, although I never found out his reason. I'm half convinced he was a noble who hated being a noble. Rayleigh shook his head with a smile. I knew it, the way you two fought against each other. There was no way you didn't know each other before God Valley. Yeah, Garp chuckled. We would compete with each other with what we could find in the Gray Line. We would cause all sorts of trouble, until I met Captain Hallow and she took me in. I heard you mention her a few times in the past when drinking with Roger. Who is she? Rayleigh took out his flask and drank from it. Closest thing I ever had to a mom, Garp admitted. She trained me a bunch before sending me to the academy. She'd throw me into the jungle and tell me to hunt down a specific beast and come back with it. Learned so much from her. I remember eating my hunts with her. Those were amazing. Many years ago. Captain Hallow. A child, Garp yelled out, dragging a large elephant behind him. I killed the Titan King. Captain Hallow D. Wendy turned to look at him, ignoring the bandit she was fighting, orange eyes alight with glee. Good job, Garp. Let's get that fire going. It's time to eat. She smiled widely as she stopped an incoming blade. Jackakokakakoko. Just let me finish my own training. Garp smiled, hearing her laugh. She finished the bandits while he built the fire and got the meat cooking. So what's my next test? Wendy leaned back. There isn't one. You passed them all. She tore into her share of meat, even biting through the bone. I'll put in the paperwork to send you to academy tomorrow. Garp frowned. Why can't you just make me a Marine? He asked sadly. Wendy patted him on the back. Because there's only so much I can do to train you. But you can do what I can. Garp yelled out, standing up. I've never met anyone else who could do this. He scrunched his eyes up in concentration, but it was broken when Wendy hand chopped his head. I told you to be careful with that. People, things aren't good right now. The Marines won't accept people like us yet, but I've been working to change that, and I know you can too. Garp, you care about others so much. Once you've graduated you can come back here and we'll clean up this kingdom's corruption first, and we'll move throughout East Blue. We'll gather like-minded people. We'll change the Marines for the better. Once that's done, we won't have to hide anymore or anyone else like us. Garp grumbled and sat back down. But I don't want to leave you. Wendy smiled softly at him and patted his head. Then, let me give you a family name and my D initial. Huh? How does that work? Garp tilted his head. Wendy giggled. Like this. Given how you fight, I know just what to give you. I hereby name you as Monkey D. Garp, and now you're part of the D clan. She tapped him on the chest where his heart is. Now you carry me with you wherever you go because we both carry the will of D. What does it stand for? Jackakokakakoko. I have no idea. Wendy laughed out before tearing into her meat. Garp laughed and joined her in feasting on his hunt. Present. Sounds like a good woman. Rayleigh's words shook Garp from his remembrance. Did Roger know her? Nope, he had set out to another island by sneaking onto a ship by the time I had finished my third hunt. He knew of her, just never met her. Garp shrugged. Although there was never any chance of him getting convinced to join the Marines, he had his heart set on being the only person in charge of his path. Rayleigh smiled as they neared the granting wish, the bodies of several Marines and pirates around the dock. Just like your sense of justice, that was a part of him that could never change. Oi, Captain. Sarah's waved at them, walking with Guion and Lamy. Shaki told us the coding is done. Are the others here? They'll be here soon. How's everything going, Tom? Garp yelled up and Tom peered over the side. Fine, nothing difficult. Tom gave him a thumbs up. All right, old men. Lami climbed up Garp and sat on his shoulder. What do we need before we can leave? Hopefully we didn't miss anything, Kuma worried while carrying supplies. Ginny heard the news, so we went and got everything. Ginny bit into her meat on the bone. Yup. I sent word to the others already. They'll be here soon. Garp nodded. All right, let's get everything stored away. Rayleigh watched as they all walked back onto their ship. For a moment he could see Roger with Shanks on his shoulder and the rest of the crew walking behind him as they returned to the Oro Jackson. Roger, wish I could see your reaction to this, he softly laughed. I'm sure I'll find it out when my time comes, but I won't be joining you for a while. I'll come visit soon. The rest of the crew returned and they pulled out of the dock. Tom went over the side and began to deflate the air bubble. Watching the ship go beneath the water, Rayleigh nodded. You chose to turn this world on its head because it's what you wanted to do, following your own path. He's turning the world on its head because of his sense of justice, even if he's also the most selfish fuck either of us ever met. You certainly knew how to pick your rivals, Roger. As the ship sunk further into the ocean, Garp looked at the fish swimming around them. Is this what you saw when you first came here, Captain Hallow? He sat down and rested his head against the wall. Why am I thinking about her again? I haven't thought of her since that dream. But she talked about some of her trips into New World before she took charge of Goa, starting with Fishman Island. Garp chuckled. She planned out allegiances with emperors, overhauling the warlord system to ensure the pirates chosen would not only be powerful but kind, so many things. I'm sorry we weren't able to fulfill your dream, Captain Hallow. Many years ago, Goa Kingdom. Sengoku and Tsuru fell beneath cover as a salvo of bullets were fired at them. Where did they get weaponry like this? Their budget isn't enough to be able to afford all of this. Sengoku yelled out, using a small shockwave to stop some of the bullets, but one hit his shoulder. Damn it. Tsuru returned fire and managed to take one of the Marines down. How the fuck should I know, you idiot? Where's Garp and Kong? Sengoku tore off part of his coat and tied it around his shoulder as a makeshift bandage. Don't know, assume we're on our own right now. From the door they had come in through, Kong stormed in, twirling his staff around, deflecting any bullets fired at him. Surrender, traitors. Or face execution. Get down, you fucking idiot. Tsuru grabbed him by his coat and pulled him behind their cover as a grenade was thrown at where Kong had been and went through the door, exploding the moment it hit the ground. Kong for a split second had a frustrated expression before it straightened out. Good instincts. Where's Garp? The two turned to look at him with terrified expressions. What do you mean, where's Garp? He's with you. Sengoku's eyes were wide with fear. No, he ran off earlier when he saw a group of Marines, Kong told them. Just walk away. You can't beat us. We have the nobles behind us. The leader of this group of Marines yelled out, his rifle loaded and aimed at their cover alongside the others. Suddenly a hand reached through the wall and grabbed him by the neck and pulled him back through it with a sickening crack. The three peeked out from their cover while the Marines looked at the hole in the wall, to see Garp, his clothes torn, wounds all across his body. In both hands he was holding two Marines by their necks, one dead while the other, the group's leader, was barely alive. We have the nobles dashed. Garp squeezed his fist and the leader's neck was crushed, his head falling off as his body fell to the ground. Garp's eyes, bloodshot, could only let out a growl as he slowly walked into the building. Dropping the body of the other Marine, his empty hands twitched, before he let out a roar and lunged at them. Sengoku's eyes widened. What's wrong with Garp? What's happening? Either a devil fruit or someone had something that pissed him off, Tsuru muttered. We need to get out of here. Three of the Marines they had come here to arrest flew past them into the street in a mess of bloody limbs. Now. Garp. Kong yelled out, stepping out of the cover as Garp crushed the head of another corrupt Marine. That's enough. Garp turned to look at him, but there was no recognition in his eyes. He ran at Kong with his fist rising, but Kong hit him twice with his staff, once in the chest and the other the side of the head, and he fell to the ground knocked out. A berserker, he'll need some more training to better handle himself. Kong spoke to himself as he picked Garp up and put him on his shoulders. You two round up the Marines still alive, we'll bring them to be judged for everything they've done here, including Captain Hallow's murder. Garp will be out for a while, I'll get him medical attention. Sengoku and Tsuru stood up and gave salutes. Yes, sir. Present. That day is still such a blur. Garp dragged his hand across his face. The ship went down a downdraft rapidly and they came across the countless destroyed ships that hadn't survived the trip. As they sailed through it, Garp stood up and went inside. Walking to his room, he sat down at his desk and looked at the chest that rested on it. I promise I'll make up for my failures, Captain Hallow. Hey Garp, we're coming up on Fishman Island, Ginny said, barging into his room while chowing down on a turkey leg. So how long we going to be staying here? She asked, a pair of communicator headphones hanging around her neck and straps hanging from her pants with a shirt that had one sleeve longer than the other. Is that the rise fruit? Yeah, Garp answered softly, his mind elsewhere. We'll be staying for a few days, resupplying and giving the final preps for going into New World. I've been here maybe twice. The Marines had means of transport into New World without having to go through here. I only ever met the late Queen, the rest of the royal family has stayed here, but this place, Captain Hallow loved it and I never tried to see what she saw. What kind of a student am I? Ginny stuck a turkey leg into Garp's mouth. An idiot. Morning, there's plenty of things to describe you. Just don't let this consume you and you'll be fine. She patted him on the head. Now come on Garp, we're docking. Garp chuckled. I can see where Bonnie got parts of her personality from. He stood up, tucking the chest under his arm as he walked with her back out onto the deck where the others were. A fishman had come out to help guide them into port. Everyone pair up and handle what business you have. I'll be visiting my brother, Tom said with a fond smile. I'll be going with him, Alvia said. I'd heard rumors of a poneglyph in a forest here back during my search for them, want to see if they're true. Bogart and I will be handling getting any necessary supplies, Kazan shared. Kumachi and I will be staying here to guard the ship. Ginny kissed Kuma's cheek. Sarah's and Guillaume will be helping Lamy with getting medical books and supplies. Means you're stuck with me, Garp? Belmere chuckled before flinching from a headache throb. Lamy tossed her a thing of tea meant to help with headaches. Thanks, so what are we doing, Captain? Seeing how to get an audience with Neptune, Garp answered as the granting wish docked. Sending out the ramp, the others began to depart. Ginny, ask the army for any updates regarding the movements of the emperors while we're gone. Come on, Orchard, let's see what we need to do to get an audience. The pair walked off and into the city, Belmere sipping at the tea while having her hood pulled low. I've heard there's an admiral stationed here alongside the warlord Jinbi. We gonna have to fight them? Given that it's Hina, I'd rather avoid that, Garp muttered. You! A shark mermaid yelled out, pointing at Garp accusingly. What did you do? Garp raised an eyebrow then looked around. You talking to me? He pointed at himself. Belmere rested her free hand on her pistol just in case a fight started. Who else? Madame Shirley, is this about your visions changing? A fishman asked. 10 months before you resigned I became plagued with days of visions of the future and it has continued since. And I see you every time. Yet why do I see her dead in others? She pointed at Belmere. One of your crewmates being part of the Blackbeard pirates? Garp straightened at that. Another turned into a soulless machine. Why do I see two different futures? Garp was silent for a beat before he shrugged. How should I know? In this case it's more our fault than his. Time travel does that, Shaper said as he appeared between the two. Time stopped around the group. Belmere looked around, eyes wide at the sight of everything frozen in place. So that's why we never heard you talking with them. Shirley narrowed her eyes at the god. Who are you? We don't want you causing him any trouble while he's here, and besides he has a task we gave him. Shaper suddenly transformed into Shaker. So, get between us and what we want and there's plenty we can do to make it your problem, she threatened. We're the ones who caused the change in the timeline causing you your headaches. If you want to yell at someone, yell at us. Not the man simply being himself when he does what he does. Shirley leaned forward to look her in the eye. I can't see anything of your future. What are you? Gods, Garp bluntly answered. Believe what you want, but I'd rather not have any trouble. Shirley looked at Garp over Shaker, then back at the god. Make the headache stop and we are even. I can't properly run my cafe because of them. Shaker smirked. Sure, but first you're going to help him get to Noah once he tells you he's ready. Otherwise, you'll owe us a favor, and believe me, you don't want to be in debt to any kind of god, especially me. That's enough, Shaker. Sky appeared behind the goddess and hand chopped the top of her head. Apologies, she's getting impatient about Garp getting his task done. Our rules state that we cannot simply do something for no reason, it has to be an exchange. It ensures there isn't any abuse of kindness, but in cases like these it can restrict us. If you can show him to Noah, then we can be able to aid you. Simple but follows our rules. Shirley pondered the offer for a moment. Fine, but only if he promises not to cause any damage to Fishman District. So long as no one tries to fight me, I won't do anything, Garp told her. Time resumed. You will explain more to me later. I'd rather not be kept in the dark when it has caused me such troubles, Shirley told Garp as she passed him a flyer for her cafe. You will find me here. Okay, Garp took the flyer. I have some other business to deal with, but I should be there either later today or tomorrow. Shirley nodded and left. What happened? Madame Shirley looked like she was about to tear his head off. Then she didn't. Did she have a vision? I could have sworn she was standing up. When did she move? Some of the civilians asked. Come on, Orchard, Garp said as they continued their walk through the city. Is it always like that? Usually just me. They didn't bring others in aside from when I first met with Hancock and her sisters. Garp shrugged, keeping a tight hold on the chest as he sensed more people coming towards them. Garp, the end. The Minister of the Right called out. You're being summoned to meet with King Neptune. Please come with me. Garp let out a sigh. One of you pulled something, didn't you? He whispered only so he could hear himself. He heard a laugh on the wind answering his question. Well, what luck, I was looking to have an audience with him. This is my crewmate, Orchard. She'll be coming with me. I hope it's not a problem, but I don't really care what you have to say, Garp told him. So Minister of the Right, shall we get going? The Minister of the Right gestured for him to get on the gondola that he had arrived on. Right this way. I understand Tom is with you. How is he? He's fine, quieter, but still has the same love for shipbuilding and creating things. He makes everything that we use in our kitchen. He's even been making some armor. It's just leather, but it's really nice, Garp answered. I'm guessing you know him. I do, although more through his brother Den than being direct friends with him, the Minister of the Right responded. But before he set out for Water 7, he started his craft here. Many people know him here. It was quite a surprise when we saw his wanted poster. The granting wish has been a continuous project of his, although our invasion of the Kingdom of Germa gave him access to plenty of technology and blueprints that he's been having fun with. Just wish he could get back to partying like he used. Garp continued to talk with the Minister of the Right. Belmir looked around the gondola. So why did King Neptune want to meet with us? A simple request from Admiral Hina that His Highness decided to extend to himself as well. Once word came in of your arrival, she wished to speak with you, although of what I don't know, the Minster answered Belmir's question. The gondola reached the gate to the palace and the Minster of the Right used a bubble to swim out and gain entry. Once the gondola went through the gates, Garp saw Marines ahead. So you let Marines into your palace? That's a surprise. Only the Admiral and a dozen of her subordinates, a formality and nothing more. You don't need to be threatened by them, the Minister of the Right assured as the gondola docked. Garp walked out first and right past the Marines. I'm not. Belmir followed after him, shoulders relaxed, even patting a clearly nervous Marine on the back. Yeah, kinda hard to be afraid of them after all our battles. The doors of the palace opened and the Minister of the Right stood at attention. Your Majesty, I present to you Garp the End and his crewmate Orchard. Upon his throne, Neptune nodded at his minister. Thank you. I welcome you both to my home. Hina stood to the side of the throne, and right next to her was Jinbi. Garp, Hina has words for you, Hina growled out. Garp smiled widely. Hina, I heard you took down 2 rampaging sea kings with one shot of one of your spears. I see you've been improving your aim and strategies. Proud of you. And Garp walked right up to her and brought her in for a hug. All of Hina's anger melted away as she fell into the familiar embrace, reflexively returning the hug. Hina is happy to see you, Garp. Smoker and I won many bets when you beat Sengoku. Garp laughed loudly. I keep hearing about all these bets people made. I didn't think you made any though. He stepped back, keeping his hand on her shoulder. What other dark secrets did you keep from me? Hina giggled, to the surprise of the others. We made them back during our training days. It was mostly in jest when they were made. I'm not holding it against anyone. Seni and I had an old bet going that we settled with that fight, best out of 100. So why'd you want to meet with me? Garp asked, glancing back at Belmir and noticing an intense stare she was giving Jinbi. Before Admiral Hina speaks with you, my Minister of the Right says you wish to speak with me? Neptune interrupted, although there was some mirth in his voice at witnessing the reunion. Garp stood in front of Belmir. Memories? He whispered to her. Important ones, Belmir hoarsely whispered back. Need to talk to him. A recent attack that my crew and I carried out gave us access to a devil fruit that I would like to give you, in order to rectify 2 mistakes of the Marines. Garp held the chest in front of him and opened it, revealing a fruit in the shape of an apple with a clock and hourglass indents in it alongside the usual marks of a devil fruit. This is the Rise fruit. It grants the consumer the power to resurrect anyone and then returns into circulation. Neptune's eyes widened at the fruit. Please hold before you say anything, Your Majesty. Hina grimaced at having to interrupt. The fruit is the property of Elder Saint Saturn. Used to resurrect slaves so they are forever forced to continue their labor. Garp shot right back. He wasn't angry at her for mentioning that fact. It had most likely been sent out when they stole, so if any Marines came across it they could retrieve it. I won't allow it to go back to him. I would like to offer something to you in exchange for one thing. Neptune crossed his arms. We cannot give you any money. Good wasn't going to ask for any. Orchard needs to talk with Jinbe privately. So long as she is allowed to talk with him, I will resurrect Queen Otoheim and Fisher Tiger. And suddenly Neptune was willing to give Garp so much more than money. Jinbe looked at Garp in shock. You would resurrect them, in exchange I need only to talk with your crewmate? She needs to talk with you. If she didn't need to, I would simply be asking where they're buried so I can go get this done. Garp shrugged. Besides, this conversation can easily never have happened. I just came to the kingdom, used the fruit and left soon after. Hina will be heading to drink with Den later today. I am feeling like blackout drinking, so I will not be remembering any of this. Hina smiled at Neptune, who looked at her in shock. Your Highness, I would give my very life for this. Jinbe turned to Neptune. I will talk with his crewmate. Jinbe, my friend, I could not thank you enough. Neptune teared up. Admiral Hina? Everyone, this conversation never happened. What conversation, Your Highness? The Minister of the Left asked. We are simply here practicing in case of having to meet with any important pirates, the Minister of the Right said with a smirk. Garp panted as he used his hand to chop at a training dummy, but the head came off. Damn it. You're not going to get the first technique right away, Captain Hallow patted him on the head. But I can't help you with your dream if I don't know them. Garp yelled out as he kicked the dummy's head. Jackakokakakoko. Captain Hallow laughed. Garp, you don't need to know my techniques to be able to help me. But if you're going to be so insistent, then you're not allowed to use any weapons except for your fists until you master them. The captain's infectious laughter melted away Garp's anger at himself. Fine then. They'll be my greatest attacks. Captain Hallow rolled her eyes. Garp, create your own attacks. Don't hold yourself back to only what I can do. I'm training you to become better than me. Now take a break. We'll pick your training back up later. Present time. Garp jolted as the door closed and he was left alone in a hallway with Hina. Why did you leave, Garp? Hina asked. Oh? You left everything behind. You talked about how we were the futures of the Marines, everything that you did. Hina grit her teeth. You threw it all away, and for what? Garp looked down at the ground. Because I was wrong. I hadn't been willing to admit the greatest flaw of the Marines and the world government. And what could that possibly be? There's already been so much revealed. Hina looked at him briefly before turning away. I can take whatever you have to say. They were founded on absolute justice. For Marines like you and Smoker, you're outliers, not the norm, and they will always support absolute justice over any others, even actively quell the others in favor of absolute justice, using it to oppress all others, justify slavery and the Buster Calls, caring more about killing pirates who do good than those truly evil, hiding the truth from the public not to protect them but to protect their status quo. That is their greatest flaw. But it's not why you left, Hina snapped at him. Hina knows you, Garp. Stop lying to me. Garp smiled, blunt as always. I left because I realized I couldn't protect my family as a Marine. Dragon can protect himself. Hina's eyes widened. You I'm a grandfather, and all of my grandkids will have people after them for one reason or another who are protected by the world government, or is the world government itself. Hina stood straight and fully looked at Garp. You're doing all of this to protect them? At the end of the day, throw away all the propaganda I've listened to, the duty to the Marines I gave everything to. My family is the most important thing to me. Within the room, Jinbe stood awkwardly, waiting for Belmere to say anything. She had been silent since they had entered the room. What did you want to ask me? Belmere twirled around and pointed her gun at him, her free hand on the hilt of her sword, ready to take it out. Where is Arlong? Where are my daughters? Belmere yelled at him. A fire returned to her eyes that she had lost since she lost her memories. Answer me, you son of a bitch. Where is Arlong? The bastard who cost me my memories, sold me into slavery, attacked my village and took me from my children. Where is he? Jinbe grew pale with each of Belmere's words. Arlong, what do you mean? He attacked my village, enslaved everyone there, demanding them to pay to stay at their own homes. I couldn't for me and both of my kids, so I gave myself up, but he didn't kill me. He sold me directly to a celestial dragon. I woke up not remembering anything about him. Now where is he? Jinbe was shaking. Both of the splits turned to slavery, despite everything. Arlong? Jinbe yelled out and turned around to storm out. Belmere cocked her gun. Answer my fucking question. I don't know, Jinbe answered, his voice shaking with barely restrained rage. When I became a warlord, I had them release Arlong. We fought and he left with many members of the Sun Pirates. Macro and 2 others left to form their own crew as well. I don't know where he is, and I haven't heard anything of his current location. Jinbe turned around and fell to his knees and bowed to Belmere. Forgive me for my mistake. I offer you my life. I don't deserve to bear the mark of the Sun Pirates. I failed to uphold it. Belmere lowered her gun but didn't holster it. You have offered your life to me. Until I am reunited with my children and my village freed from Arlong, I will hold it in my hands. Should you betray this pact, I will kill you. Now get up. She holstered her gun and walked back to the door. You have a search to begin. She pulled the door open and walked out into the hallway. Garp looked at her and then Jinbi. I'm surprised things weren't louder. Usually when you question someone they start begging for mercy. Only when they're hiding what they know from me, Belmere responded. Hina looked at her for a moment. You remind me of a senior of mine, Orchard. I'm not that old, Hina, Belmere shot back. Hina chuckled. It's good to see you again, Belltower. Did not miss that nickname, Belmere muttered, causing Hina to laugh. Garp smiled at the two as they walked towards the gondola. You two can catch up later. The minster of the right and the minster of the left stood before them. In order to ensure that this meeting never happened, His Highness cannot join you for the resurrections, and neither can we. The official story is that Den, whose shop is near the graveyard where they rest, will find them resurrected and alert us. Jinbi and Admiral Hina will be there with him, but they won't remember anything as they went there to drink with him and drank too much. On behalf of our kingdom, we thank you. The minster of the left finished talking and both bowed to him. Just guard Queen Odoheim, the pirate who shot her. He wasn't known to do stuff like that without some sort of monetary gain involved. Someone was behind him. Garp warned them as he walked onto the gondola with the other three. They sat in silence as the gondola floated through the kingdom towards the sea forest. As it landed and Garp stepped out, Tom waved at them with Den right beside him. Captain, good to see you. Den was just showing me some of the blueprints he's drawn up from the ships that have crashed here. It's given me some ideas. That's good to hear, Tom, but if I have to remind you to label things again, we will have problems. Belmere grabbed one of the bottles on the ground and opened it, taking her mask and hood off to drink it. Jinbi first pointed towards an ornate grave. Queen Odoheim lies there, and there. He then pointed further into the graveyard of ships, towards a ship that held the flag of the Sun Pirates. Fisher Tiger lies. Garp took a deep breath, then first walked towards Odoheim's grave. Laying his hand upon it, he kneeled in front of it. You worked so hard to bridge the gap between fishmen and mermaids and humans, but someone cut you short just before you could begin to fulfill your dream. He opened the chest and brought the fruit out and devoured it. Grabbing the lid of Odoheim's grave, Garp tore it off. What are you doing? Den yelled out, standing up only to be stopped by Tom. Captain wouldn't do this without reason. Let him work, Tom told his brother. Den gritted his teeth but relaxed slightly, trusting his brother. Garp gazed upon Odoheim's remains. You'll need to change just what your dream is given everything that has happened, but you will be able to make things better. He focused on the palm of his hand and it began to glow. Reaching into the grave, the light encompassed the entirety of Odoheim's grave, reaching further out as it covered the coral around them, and then it vanished. Carefully, Garp lifted Odoheim, returned to life, out of her grave and carried her towards the others. Hina laid out a blanket and Garp carefully placed the queen down on it. She's breathing steadily, nothing appears wrong, but keep an eye on her for the first few hours. Garp stood up and made his way through the ship graveyard, grabbing the new Rise fruit from Belmere. Thanks for holding all the fruit for this. Jinbi watched Garp devour the fruit again. Men like him are a rarity, especially in this day and age. I've met a few like him since joining his crew, Alvia said as she walked out of the forest. What was with the light? Garp stood before a ship decorated with stone showing images of the sun. Fisher Tiger, you had a similar dream of equality as Odoheim, but you tempered it with the knowledge you held. Despite everything done to you, you tried to not hold hate in your heart. You didn't care who you freed from Marigios, only that they were no longer chained, and the Marines used that care for freedom to be able to kill you. The world still needs someone with your tempered dream, and I am certain you would want to see the complete destruction of Marigios. Ripping the ship open, Garp walked towards his remains, rested upon a pedestal. His hand glowed again as he reached towards it, and the graveyard was covered in the light again. As it faded, Fisher Tiger, flesh restored to the living, took a breath. His eyes snapped open and he struck out at Garp, but his fist was caught. I told you I refused to take any blood from the Marines. He looked around in anger, but it halted as he realized he wasn't on his ship. Where am I? Your grave, Garp told him softly. You've just been resurrected. Fisher Tiger, calm yourself. I know you don't trust humans, but please allow me to make sure everything is okay. He held his hands up placatingly. Fisher Tiger glared at Garp. Why should I trust the hero of the Marines? He's not part of the Marines anymore, Brother T, Jinbi said from the opening. The moment he saw the light begin to fade, he ran towards them, unable to stand back. So many things have happened since you died. Jinbi? Why did you dye your blonde hair white? Fisher Tiger asked as he turned and put his feet on the ground. It's been years I've aged, Jinbi answered, smiling sadly at his brother. Garp carefully examined Fisher Tiger, seeing scars from the wounds that killed him decorating his body. You seem good to go, but before we go I want to ask you something. Fisher Tiger stood up, pulling up the tattered remains of his pants until Jinbi passed him a kimono to put on. What could you want from me? To join my crew, Garp said to the shock of both fishmen. I have business to handle within New World, and once that is over I am raising Marie Geos to nothing, killing as many celestial dragons as I can along the way. I've already killed 10 alongside plenty of nobles and marines among many other things. You know Marie Geos best, as someone once enslaved there you know where slaves are hidden in plain sight there, and as someone who attacked them you know the weaknesses within its security. I know only parts of it as a marine. Most people don't know the city as well as you do. The only ones who would know it better would be the God's Knights. Will you help me? Fisher Tiger looked at Garp in shock. Why not have me just tell you what I know? Why do you want me on your crew? Garp pointed at the sun burned into Fisher Tiger's chest. That right there, that sun means safety, hope, freedom. You are a good person, you care, and that means you'll help me ensure we rescue every single slave in Marie Geos. Garp held his hand out to Fisher Tiger and the fishman looked at it. I'm not calling you captain. He took Garp's hand and shook it. Neptune hovered outside the palace's infirmary. He had seen his children give him weird looks, but he couldn't bring himself to tell them, to give them hope when it could so easily be dashed. He paced outside the doors, his guards sharing in his nervousness. You're certain of what he said? Neptune asked his minister of the left. Indeed, he said that the man who assassinated Queen Odoheim would not have done it without monetary gain. Our suspicions of an accomplice or mastermind have been confirmed. The minister of the left gripped his cane tightly. The minister of the right is preparing to carry out a secret investigation into their identity. Neptune took a deep breath, struggling to keep his rage under control. Increase the guards around my children, he ordered just as their head physician came out of the infirmary. How is she? Neptune immediately leaned over so he could look them in the eye, giving them his complete attention. The physician leaned back slightly. Well, aside from a scar where she was shot that killed her, she's in perfect health. She actually just woke up. And her immune system, she won't get sick, will she? Neptune asked worriedly. The physician shook their head. No, her immune system is fine. You can see her. The physician stepped to the side and Neptune rushed into the infirmary. Neptune's eyes widened and grew misty with tears as he stared upon Odoheim, who looked at him with that smile that he hadn't seen outside of pictures for so long. She truly was alive again. She was back with him and their children. Neppy? What's wrong, dear? You look so pale. Odoheim tilted her head like she always would, her pinky just slightly extended from the rest of her fingers out of habit, her hair a mess like it always was when she just woke up, curly on one side and a jungle on the other. Her lips pursed in concern, a little bit of her teeth showing as she lightly bit her bottom lip as Neptune could only stare at her. This was something that Neptune had only ever dreamed of, but this was reality. He was wide awake. Tears began to flow as Neptune rushed forward and brought Odoheim in for a hug. He didn't want to let her go, never again. So much has been wrong, my dear. The granting wish, the sea forest. Fisher Tiger punched a tree, toppling it as he panted, his knuckles bloody. Arlong! He yelled out and attacked another tree. Jinbi flinched as another tree was felled. I am sorry, Brother T, I failed to uphold the Sun Pirates. That's enough, Fisher Tiger snapped at him. You? He panted and fell to his knees. I'm to blame. I didn't try to properly teach Arlong and the others. I hid what actually happened to me. This is my fault. No. Jinbi shouted. Brother T, you cannot blame yourself for what Arlong and Macro has done. But I was their captain. Fisher Tiger yelled at him. I was their leader, I set the example, and I failed. Jinbi rested a hand on Fisher Tiger's shoulder. We weren't able to see Macro's greed, and we couldn't see just how far Arlong's hatred of humans went. I was the one who let them leave without checking in on them, who did not fight to keep the Sun Pirates together. Fisher Tiger looked up at the light coming in through the ocean. I'll aid you in the search for Arlong once Marie Geos is destroyed. He stood up and put his hand on Jinbi's shoulder. Thank you for stopping Macro and his crew. Now we have to stop Arlong and his crew, and we will. He punched one final tree, toppling it. No one deserves to be in chains, no matter the species, and I will live by that. I'll sail with Garp to ensure that, and once that's done, I won't be taking command of the Sun Pirates back. You have done a far better job being their captain than I ever was. I will be hunting slavers, something I should have done when I created the Sun Pirates, starting with Arlong. Belmir looked upon them from the ship with a blank expression. So you don't remember where you lived? Alvia asked, holding a few maps in her arms as she walked up to the crew's helmswoman. I remember an orchard and pinwheel. Most of the faces from the village are blurry except for my kids. Belmir spoke softly. I can't even remember the weather or what we grew in the orchard, not even if it was near the sea or not. But it can still cross off some islands. I'll see what I can help with as you prep for your journey. Alvia nudged her with her elbow with a small smile. I'll go work with Kazan. If you remember anything else, let us know. With Garp. Garp looked from the flyer back to the sign on the cafe. Looking around, Garp didn't see anything else that could fit the flyer. Okay, so this is the right place. Let's meet with Shirley. Opening the doors, he entered and looked around. It was a nice place with plenty of customers. Good you're here, Shirley said from behind the counter. Jane, please take over. She floated over to him, crossing her arms. Now keep your word. We can talk in private, but I want answers and you will give them to me. Garp shrugged and followed behind her as she led her to a nearby house. Once the door was closed, Garp spoke. The god sent back a wish made by a grandchild of mine, and I changed events, causing these new visions of yours, no doubt. Now what were you talking about? One of my crew members being on the Blackbeard pirates. Kazan, in this, apparently old timeline, was selected to become the next fleet admiral by Sengoku, but the 5 elders want Akainu due to his sense of justice and his cruelty. They fought and Kazan lost, losing his arm and leg in it. He quit the Marines soon after and sometime after, would go on to join the Blackbeard pirates under Marshal D. Teach. Shirley mulled over her words. He had become jaded at some point, losing part of his sense of justice. He was nothing like what I've seen in the current timeline. I would say the same of Sengoku. He's acting differently in this timeline, like he still has something. Fusha Village. Sengoku adjusted his coat as he walked through the village. He nodded at some of the Marines he had helped fake their deaths. He would have laughed seeing their panicked looks, but he had something important to do. He stopped outside of the bar, hearing children's laughter within, and a painfully familiar laugh as well, filled with such love. He hesitated to enter. Who are you? A voice spoke behind him. Turning around, Sengoku saw a young boy with a straw hat and a scar under his eye. He looked very familiar. Sengoku stumbled over his words. The doors opened and there was Rosinante, alive, thriving. Luffy, please tell me you didn't blow anything. Dad. Rosinante looked at his adoptive father in shock. Rosinante, Sengoku said breathlessly. Garp said. Hey Dad, Luffy waved with a laugh. Reiju and I blew up 2 of the castle's towers. For once Rosinante couldn't react. You look good, Sengoku said, raising his hand up but freezing. I'm so dash. He was cut off as Rosinante rushed forward and hugged him tightly. I missed you so much, Rosinante cried into Sengoku's shoulder, and his reflexes immediately kicked in and hugged him back, rubbing his back comfortingly. When I heard what had happened, I didn't want to believe you were gone. I'm so glad I did that, Sengoku cried, holding his son tightly. Ing is here. Oh, she'll be so happy to see you. When Garp told me it was agony to wait, I needed to know you were. I heard I'm a grandpa. Hey, why'd you make our dad cry? Someone yelled out from the bar. Several teens ran out from it, armed and ready to beat someone up. Sengoku. Drake said, surprised seeing the man who has saved him from execution. Kids, stop, this is my dad. Rosinante stood up and looked at them with a bright smile. Law, come meet your grandpa. With Garp. I can think of a reason or two, Garp thought to himself. They aren't jaded like they were in the old timeline, but that's the least of the changes. I saw 3 visions, but only one of them came true. Shirley glared at Garp. One where Crocodile became an emperor, another with Mihawk, and finally Boa Hancock, but only one of them came true. Why is that? I was given those 3 as choices on who to make into an emperor within paradise. I chose Hancock, Garp answered. Shirley sighed. But why did I see visions for those 2 alongside Boa Hancock? It doesn't make any sense unless somehow they were possible futures based on your choice for who to make an emperor, but to see that happen alongside seeing visions for the new timeline alongside the old. Just what has happened to my sight of the future? You're seeing the hundreds of rivers instead of the one, Garp answered. Future isn't set until it happens. Just because you can see it doesn't mean it's destined to happen. Shirley looked at him for a few moments before tsking. I'll consider those words after my headaches are gone. Take this. Shirley tossed him a piece of coral with 2 holes in it. That will give you a bubble that will protect you within the ocean. Just blow into it and it'll create the bubble. Now follow me. Fishman District isn't far, but be careful, they aren't fans of humans. Garp nodded and followed after her, sticking the coral in his mouth. Looking up at the lit ocean above them, Garp sighed. Did you take my advice in my letter, Dragon? Fusha Village. Dragon hid behind a building as he saw Luffy run past with Reiju and Cosette, laughing. Lucifer. Come on, Dad, just let us go mess with the nobles. Luffy yelled at Rosinante, laughing. Dragon bit his lip. I knew I would lose the right to have you call me Dad. Why does it have to hurt so much to hear it? Before Garp has set out after attacking Rosward's vacation home, he had left Dragon a letter telling him to go see Luffy, and Dragon listened to it. A gun clicked next to his head, ready to fire. What are you doing looking at my kids like that? Rosinante asked coldly. If you're some pervert, slaver, whatever, you're dead. Dragon turned to reveal his face to him. You're? Rosinante lowered his gun. Why are you here? Dad told me to come see Luffy, Dragon said softly. You've been taking care of him, thank you. Thank Makino and Dayton, they were doing it long before I came here. Why don't you go out to see him? Rosinante's eyes widened as he saw Dragon tear up. I abandoned him, even if it was to protect him. I left him alone, by himself. Dad couldn't be with him to raise him like he was with me. I should've. Garp explained it to me one night, Rosinante said. You were losing the will to continue leading the army as you were around him. You didn't want to give it up and leave him in a world ruled by the world government. Take your time, but you owe him something. I know, but how? Dragon slid down the wall to the ground, holding his head in his hands. Rosinante sat down beside him. You kinda just do it, despite everything you're still a parent. You don't know how to do it, there's no true method to it, Sengoku said. Hi, Dragon. Uncle Sengoku, Dragon acknowledged him. Let me take over here, Rosie. Luffy is trying to get access to some sort of poison right now. You better go stop him. Rosinante let out a yell. Luffy. I told you no poison. He ran off, Luffy's laughter heard in the distance. Sengoku sat down next to Dragon. Being a parent, it is always the greatest challenge you will ever face. Even when you make choices that force you to separate from them to protect them, you never stop loving them. Dragon, you're still his father, despite who he calls Dad. Go to him, even if it is just to say hi, let him know you're still there for him. With Garp. Garp looked at the entrance to the Fishman district. So Noah is here? He asked around the coral in his mouth. Yes, stay close to me, Shirley warned him as he created a bubble around himself and followed her into the ocean. Looking around at the district, it wasn't in the best condition. Garp could see some looks the fishmen gave him and the giant ship at the center. What was this ship for? No one knows, Shirley said. I've never seen anything in my visions that tell me about it. It is an enigma. Garp saw a hole in the hull and began to walk towards it, but Shirley stopped him. Don't, Hody works out of there and he's too dangerous. We'll need to find another way. Where are you going? Garp, however, had ignored her advice and walked right in the middle of meeting between a four-legged fishman and one sitting on a makeshift throne. What is a human doing here? Hody asked, standing up and grabbing his trident. Apologies, Dekkin, we'll have to put this meeting on hold. Wait a minute, I've seen him somewhere, Vander Dekkin muttered to himself. Garp looked around, ignoring them. Okay, several levels, hundreds of rooms most likely. I should have brought Tom, he would know how to find the room fast. Hope the damage to the ship hasn't destroyed whatever it is I need to find. Hody's eyebrow twitched at being ignored, a sentiment shared by his officers. We'll kill this one, no point keeping him, Hody told them, gripping his trident tightly. Garp looked at them, noticing Hody's tattoos. You guys ever seen a weird room in this ship or any weird objects? A friend of mine asked me to look for it, said it would be here. Hody scared at being addressed so casually by a human. Who do you think you are? A lowly human, addressing his superiors. Are you trying to sound like a celestial dragon? Do you want to be one of them? Never heard of a fishman wanting to be one of them, Garp muttered to himself. How dare you? Hody yelled out and rushed at Garp, trident pointed at him. In the blink of an eye, Hody was embedded in a wall and Garp's fist was extended. Sorry, but you're talking like them and I am unfortunately quite intimate with how they talk. It is fun to see the fear in their eyes though as you kill them. Garp smiled sinisterly as he remembered. Hang on a minute, aren't you that pedophile Vander Dekkin? I've heard of you from some Marine reports regarding Whitebeard's territories. He's with the Marines. Zio yelled out. Vander Dekkin let out a gasp. Wait, you're Garp the End. He was only able to yell out those words when suddenly Garp was in front of him and grabbing his head. My darling fiancée Princess Dash. Before he could finish what he was about to say, Garp snapped his neck. I don't need to hear whatever perversions you have, thank you very much. Now how do I get further into the ship? Garp hummed to himself before seeing an opening and jumping to it. You guys should find better company than him. Walking further into the ship, Garp looked at the aging wood. this massive piece of history. What were you thinking? Shirley yelled at him from the other side of the hallway, having found another way in around Hody Jones and his people. Hody is a very dangerous person. To just waltz right into his base is the definition of moronic. Alvia would be fascinated by this ship, Garp muttered. Oh, when did you get here? A vein throbbed on Shirley's forehead. Look, I grew up in this district, this ship. There's a few spots I could think of that might hold whatever that god wants. Now come on. Shirley turned to go back the way she came and Garp followed suit. The wood creaked and groaned under each of Garp's steps, but it was sturdy despite its age. Walking into a large room, what had once been a kitchen most likely. Why did she want me to throw this ship out into the sea? Garp wondered out loud as looked through the cabinets, Shirley keeping watch. Is it something we would overlook? She wanted you to what? Shirley asked incredulously. How could she think you could throw a ship this size? I've thrown bigger, Garp said absent-mindedly as he opened the door to the pantry. I don't think it's here, on to the next place. The fuck do you mean you've thrown bigger? Shirley rubbed her forehead. You know what, I'm just going to accept whatever you say. It's going to make sure my headache doesn't get worse. But you are right, she didn't say what we had to look for. Is she aware of what we need to find? Never said, just that it was here. She was quite certain on that. Garp told her what he knew as they entered into what had been intended for a garden, maybe even an orchard. At the center was a pedestal that stood out of place. That's something, but with all the stuff grown on it I don't know if it isn't meant to be here or not. Garp walked up to it and scrapped the plant life off. He couldn't understand the markings on it and Shirley couldn't either. That must be why, Shirley muttered. So how to throw this ship? Nemia, Garp called out and she appeared, stopping an incoming hammer aimed at Shirley, courtesy of Dosen. Strike him down. Nemia roared and clawed Dosen across the chest, knocking him out from the pain and then kicking him into a wall. I told you getting on Hody's bad side was dangerous. Shirley snapped at him, only for him to punch at the side, hitting the invisible Zeo in the face. Ha, you've fallen for my, oh fuck you, he stumbled and fell to the ground unconscious. Apparently it was dangerous for them, Shirley muttered to herself. Garp reached his hand out and caught Daruma by the head midair as he tried to launch himself at Garp. Squeezing his hand slightly he broke his jaw and threw him to the side. Do any of these characters look familiar to you? He pointed at them along the pedestal. Of course none of them do. I don't make it a habit of learning ancient languages. But you have learned some of them? Shirley gave a frustrated sigh. Bits and pieces thanks to my visions. Nemia clawed Ikaros much up behind her, but nothing that could help me decipher this. Hyuzu rushed at them, his sword drawn and dipped in his poison, only for Nemia to sit on him and begin playing with his tentacles like a kitten with a toy, his sword breaking on her skin. The fuck is this thing? Shame, we won't be able to figure out if this is what we need to find unless we can decipher them, and they don't look the symbols on the poneglyphs, so I don't know if Alvia will be able to help. Garp rubbed his chin in thought, briefly running to the door and punching Hody into unconsciousness again and coming back to examine the pedestal. Heda says Demeter, lost to the fear her brother had of her power, he forced her to have his child, then manipulated his brother Hades into kidnapping her child, and the two ended up marrying and having 3 children, and he would then force himself upon their shared child as well, taking control from her, stripping her of her wisdom and sending her into madness. Her daughter was forced to kill her to stop her from continuing to destroy what she perceived as having ruined her life, lashing out at anything as her mind spiraled further into insanity, killing her grandchildren, aiding a one-eyed warrior, and killed her brother and her daughter's husband. Her daughter wept for a season for her, for what she lost because of her brother's paranoia. All that was left of her was a skull. What are you talking about? None of them. Shirley was cut off as a bunch of the characters began to glow. How? What do you mean? They just... Why can I read them now? This talks about Shiva, a destroyer who, though he could be rash at times, was kind and caring, but destruction inflicted by those fearful or greedy for power corrupted him, causing him to hurt those he loved and cared for, until warriors put him down to stop his rampaging destruction. As he died, he was granted his mind back for a brief moment, and all he could do was weep, for he had broken his vows and broken his nature. All that remained was his third eye, the power held within gone. Nut, a woman once denied by the sun to ever have children, she was given aid by knowledge and stole moonlight, until she created 5 new days in the year that allowed her to have 5 children with her husband Geb. The sun would aid a one-eyed warrior in slaying the gods of the dead in turn when he gave him aid in killing her and stealing her power, so he may begin taking power over the night, retaking control that he had begun to lose. Geb slew the sun with another sun and a moon, but he could never get his love back. He wept for his one love, avenged, but he could never see her starry eyes again, her smile, her joy. She was lost. Her tongue, the only way she was still able to be with her husband, was all that remained. 2 more columns of characters began to glow. Hang on a second, I'm able to read the glowing characters, Shirley said in surprise. This is bizarre. What is this thing? Baron Samedi, who kept life and death balanced, his power was stolen by a one-eyed warrior, and left to die as his power was abused, the first of death to fall. His love Maman Bridget found him, and to save him she pulled his soul into her, changing her body, allowing it to change between Maman Bridget and Baron Samedi. They aided warriors in bringing the world back to balance, but Baron Samedi's soul began merge into Maman Bridget's. Slowly, neither of them noticed until it was too late. Baron Samedi was no more, leaving only Maman Bridget. His knowledge, his skills, were all that his love would have left of him, alongside her forever changed body. Each of the 4 sides of the pedestal, the 4 columns of characters, glowed brightly. What happens now? Shirley asked. This is a remembrance of these 4, a memorial. Garp observed the pedestal, trying to understand how he was able to read it. This isn't a memorial, whoever made this is bragging. What do you mean, how do you know that? There were pirates, they would make stuff like this, people would think they were memorials and pay respects to them. Garp scared at remembering those times. But there was always some part of it that gave it away, that helped us find the pirates who made them, were the ones who hurt the victims in the first place. The last parts of each story, of what was left behind, that gave it away because it talks about the forever reminder of their pain. But the way we were able to find the pirates is that there was something hidden in the memorial, an extra little story, a taunt. So, once we read the taunt, we can take the pedestal to them and your deal is done, Shirley surmised. The pedestal isn't what we need to take to her, it's the map, Garp countered. The taunt is always someplace hidden, but people could still see it, like something out of the corner of your eye, and yet when you turn to look for that thing it's not there anymore, but it is. It can no longer be seen though because your eye is fully upon it. For a pedestal like this though, Garp showcased by trying to life the pedestal, but it couldn't be moved no matter how he tried to move it. It won't be on the bottom, that's too obvious. Besides, they would want someone to be able to see it and we can't see the bottom. That would leave only the top, Garp gestured at it. But it's too small to hold a message given the design of the characters, so. Garp slammed his palm down on the top with all his might and then jumped back as the pedestal split in 4. The 4 parts then unfolded once then twice until a circle was formed, then a portal formed within, and 2 tendrils lashed out and grabbed Garp and Shirley. What is with this fucking pedestal? Shirley yelled out as they were dragged into the portal. As the light of the portal faded, they looked around. It was completely black, the floor was water, but they were able to stand on it. Who are you, Monkey D. Garp? Garp looked behind and saw a bearded man in a toga. Why do I know your name is Zeus? Zeus laughed, it was haunting. The same as I know she is the latest incarnation of the Oracle of Delphi, you simply do. This place, my prison, it forces you to know everything about those who step in. My memories can be seen by you and I can see your memories. Although, I can't figure out who you once were. Interesting. He walked forward, stretching his fingers like he was expecting something to happen. Of course, my power is still stolen by Heimdall. Did you enjoy those stories? Odin was truly brilliant with his plans. Demeter was finally ready to be made into my weapon. But our daughter just had to ruin it. Shiva was no longer able to interfere. Nut could not protect or warn anyone and Ra was willing to aid us after that. And Baron Samedi, it was a mistake to leave him alive, but his final fate, to never be able to reincarnate, his soul simply gone. Zeus chuckled. Maman Bridget's scream of anguish when I told her what Odin had manipulated them into doing, glorious. Garp tilted his head. Why did they send us to your prison? Why is it here? They weren't aware it was my prison. When Chernabog unleashed the hundreds of horsemen of the apocalypse it was lost. And long after my prison was changed into what it is now, it was placed here to keep the spell, keeping Geb and Terra forcefully fused together. Zeus gestured around them. They couldn't kill me with the power I had gained, so they put me here and then stole it all. And now I can hurt them, take back what is mine. Garp pushed Shirley behind him. Who is Emu? Zeus laughed uproariously. My greatest ally I have ever had. If you wish to break the spell, you will have to kill me. Zeus reached into the floor and pulled out a shield with a Gorgon's head emblazoned on it. But even without my powers it will not be easy for you. Garp stopped for a moment. Wait, you're a former god but you've been stripped of all your powers and you haven't fought anything since then? You've just been stuck in here alone? Why does that? Some of Garp's memories flashed through Zeus' mind, of once powerful pirates who has tried to leave retirement but had not trained properly for their return. Oh well, mistakes have been made. Garp rushed forward and punched the shield, and Zeus' arm broke from the force. He grabbed him by the legs and repeatedly slammed him into the ground, shaking the prison realm around them. Nemia a new chew toy. Garp threw him into the air and Nemia materialized and bit down hard onto Zeus and thrashed her head around, tearing him to pieces. I'll take this, thank you. Garp picked up the shield, throwing Zeus' severed arm away. Now what is the object we had to bring, Shaker? Shirley sighed. I had thought this was going to be more interesting, but it doesn't answer the question of who put the prison here. Someone named Emu, he didn't know much though about them. Garp nudged part of Zeus with his foot. He was careful with what we could see, only his name, but he slipped up with Emu in his excitement to finally be able to fight someone after so long. My guess. Garp plunged his hand into the floor below and felt around. Right where he kept his shield, he didn't seem like someone smart. Understatement, Shirley muttered, although it would seem it to be a result of his isolation, given Demeter's story. Garp grabbed onto something and lifted out a statue. Two people on a small platform, a woman with flowing hair with lines of ruby lining her, and a golem with lines of emerald lining him. I think this is what we were looking for, let's see what else he had. Garp went back to digging through the watery floor. He pulled out chains, hooks, hammers, wheels of torture, a chair full of spikes, even an anvil. Why did he only pull out the shield? A lot of this could have helped him, Shirley observed as she examined the statue. It's of good make and quality, the gem lining is genuine. Do you think this was an object of some favorite worshipper they want back? Perhaps they used it as a channeling to hurt Shaker and Shaper. Ditch the worship part of the theory and go with the second question, and yeah, I think so, Garp said as he pulled out more tools of punishment until he felt something different and pulled out a red and black coat. I think this is the only other thing of value here. Great, so how do we get out of here? Shirley asked, looking around for another portal. Garp looked around. He then looked up towards the only source of light in the prison. Nemia, could you help me get up there? Garp asked the lioness. Nemia let out a purr and kneeled down, allowing him to get on her back. She then flew up, Shirley using her bubble ring to follow after them. Once they reached the source of light, Garp gently stood on Nemia's back and reached out, grabbing it. It's not the way out, what is this? Garp examined the orb of light. It is good to see you again, sir. May I begin diagnostics? The orb spoke in a monotone voice. It knows you. Shirley tilted her head, narrowing her eyes at the orb. Yeah, sure. Could you help us leave? I can take you with me once I'm out if you'll permit me, Garp told the orb. Actually, what's your name? I see. I am Eden, you may take me with you, and I shall create a portal so you may leave. Eden spoke, their voice sounding more jovial. Do I have permission to take bracer form on your arm and allow the gods of the Eternity Pantheon to enter the prison? Yes, to both. We're actually going to meet with Shaper and Shaker. The orb changed shape and became a bracer on Garp's left forearm, with it now resting near his wrist upon the bracer. A portal appeared in front of the two and they floated through it after Garp created a new bubble to cover himself. Entering back into the garden area of Noah, Garp looked back at the pedestal as it dissolved, the particles flowing into Eden. Seems Hody and his people are still out cold. Let's get out of here, we're done here. Garp followed after Shirley, going out the way she came in and through the Fishman district, until a pair of hands pulled them both into an alleyway. Do you have it? Shaper asked. Garp held up the statue, Shirley having handed it over to him once they left the prison. Right here. Shaker looked at the statue but then noticed his new bracer. Eden? Is that you? Hello Tara, it is wonderful to see you. I will soon be holding diagnostics before performing some maintenance, but you will soon have access to the prison again, although Monkey D. Garp executed Zeus. I will provide his memories for inspection of what happened when I was lost, as well as when I was forced to turn the prison into the vault that held the object that hurt you and Geb. Hello Geb. Shaper smiled. It's wonderful to see you well, old friend. Why are you in bracer form? Monkey D. Garp holds the power to perform executions within the prison. He is currently the highest authority and thus I will aid him as needed, Eden answered. Shaper looked at Garp in a new light. Really? Well, firstly, he took the statue, gripped both figures and crushed it. From his back Shaker's arms shot out and she crawled out from within his stony body, before he began to change, his stone skin becoming flesh, his ruby eye turning into an emerald. He shook himself, flexing his hands. It's been so long I almost forgot what it was like to not hold stone skin like we have been, to hold off the attack as much as we could. Fuck yeah. Shaker yelled out, her skin turning to flesh as well and her ruby eye becoming an emerald as well. We can swim again. We're no longer landlocked. I need to kick some ass. Where's Vander Decken? Oh, it'll be so much fun to kick his ass. I killed him, Garp told her. Great. Fuck him. I'll go find someone else to beat up. Rahahahaha. Shaker laughed, her stone-clawed hands clenching into fists as she smiled widely. GYPTPTPTPTPTPTPTPT. Shaper joined her in laughing. It would be amazing to fight alongside you again after so long, sis. But first you know what we have to do, he reminded her. They both stood before Garp and held their hands together. You have upheld your word and now so shall we. They spoke, their eyes glowing. We now owe you a debt. Should you ever need anything, we will do everything within our power to do it, no matter what. All right. Now let's go find some asshole to beat up. Shaker lifted her arms into the air with a cheer as the two melted into the ground. Wait. You promised to help me with my headaches. Shirley yelled at them, only for Shaker to throw a bottle of headache pills to her. That is not what I meant and you know it. The bottle says they were made by the gods, Garp pointed out. Shirley looked closer at the bottle. Humph, they could have bothered to say something. Let's get out of here. As the two walked away, a fish woman observed them. You two didn't need to be so rude to her. She was quite helpful, she said as she walked towards Noah, humming as she moved past members of the new fishermen pirates running out of Noah. Shaker is just excited. I am too, Shaper said as the fish woman walked into where Vanderdecken's corpse was. She picked it up and threw it over her shoulder. But what are you doing here, Ocean, and why in that form? Simply ensuring Vanderdecken's fate is known. Sky took over for the small time I am here, Ocean said, although Eden's return was a surprise. I would consider Garp's soul having permission to execute within the prison more surprising, Shaper said. Zeus is actually dead. Don't know how Death is going to feel about that. But having Backwar's prison could help us with dealing with Emu. Ocean smiled softly. Yes, it should. I have yet to meet Emu since I was still within the cycle when they betrayed us. Ocean walked through the Fishman district. Go join Shaker, Shaper, give her my regards. She walked out of the Fishman district and up to some patrolling guards. Here's Vanderdecken's corpse. Someone managed to kill him. Don't know who, but I did see Monkey D. Garp in the area. As she walked away, she sang, early in the morning. Fusha Village. Dragon stood outside of Makino's bar, hearing Luffy and his siblings laughing. He took a deep breath and walked in. Hey, you're that guy that was with Grandpa at Sorbet. Yanji pointed at him. Dragon? It's so good to see you. Makino smiled at him. Hi, Makino. Dragon smiled at her. He turned to look at Luffy. Hi, Luffy. I'm your father. I'm sorry it took so long for me to see you. Luffy tilted his head. I have a father? Law, Ace, and Sabo collectively face-bombed. You kinda need to have some sort of father to be born, Luffy, Law said to him. Dragon started to laugh. I have so much I want to tell you if you would have me. All right, Pops. Luffy smiled, and Dragon felt a weight lift from his shoulders as he smiled at his son. With Kong. The submarines are fully prepared, sir. A Marine reported to Kong. You seem awfully confident, Temporary Fleet Admiral, so what's the plan? Doflamingo asked. Kizaru, Akainu, and Tsuru looked at Kong as well. We'll kill Garp here at the docks of Dressrosa. Akainu, you will face Kazan at Punk Hazard. Kizaru, you will deal with Bogard. Tsuru will lay down suppressing fire. Listen to my orders as I give them, and Garp will die, Kong told them simply as he walked away to finish up inspections of their ships. The granting wish broke through the water's surface, finally a new world after so long, heading for Dressrosa. Let's take down a warlord, Belmir announced to the crew. Garp stood in his room looking at the coat he had taken from Zeus' prison, still folded. Why was this in the prison? Garp wondered out loud. Unfolding it, a pair of boots fell to the floor, with red string holding the leather together. Picking them up, Garp examined them. These are for a woman, Garp observed when the string suddenly came undone. His eyes widened as the string reworked the boots until they stopped. What? Now the boots were bigger, his size in fact. Garp slipped his shoes off and put the boots on. He stomped on the floor a bit with them. Perfect fit. Well, might as well. Garp slipped on the coat, the fabric growing to fit him. Looking in the mirror, Garp examined his new outfit. Not bad. Should I start braiding my hair or should I cut it? Garp looked closer at the mirror, running his hands through his hair. Oi, Garp, come out on deck, we're almost to Dressrosa, Kazan yelled through the door. Garp followed after him out onto the deck. Walking up to the platform, Garp could see in the distance Dressrosa, and close by Punk Hazard. Garp. A voice echoed out, one that Garp easily recognized. I know you're there. One chance. Surrender or die. Kong gave the terms, a formality he had no intention of abiding. Speaker is ready for you, Belmir communicated to Garp. Garp grabbed the speaker and brought it up to his mouth. Kong. You saved me the trouble of hunting you down. Let me guess, this is a trap. In response, several strange-looking ships broke through the water, surrounding the ship and easily outnumbering them. "I have something to tell you before you die, Garp," Kong yelled through the speaker snail. "Many years ago, I made a discovery regarding several revolts. The person behind it was well protected politically due to her marriage, so I could not arrest her. So I used her pregnant state against her with the Juno poison. I'm the one who poisoned Yumi and killed her." The speaker fell from Garp's hand as his eyes widened. Bogard growled behind him, but Garp could only hear a ringing in his ears. "What? Had I known the full truth, I would have killed you and smothered Dragon after he was born," Kong yelled through the speaker, smirking as he knew Garp's brain was trying to process what he had just revealed, keeping one of his eyes on the camera birds flying above them. Fusha Village. Sengoku was panicking as he used his Conqueror's Haki to keep Luffy's contained, with more effort than he had ever expended before. Luffy, please calm down," Rosinante begged. The rest of the kids looked at Luffy in fear. The look in his eyes was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Kong. Him uttering one name was more than enough to make them step back. Luffy wasn't just angry like he was with the nobles of Goa Kingdom. He wanted blood, he wanted death, and his Haki reacted in kind. "Fuck," Sengoku cursed, recognizing the look from a long time ago. "Just had to inherit that." He didn't notice the strange colored tint to Luffy's Haki, too focused on keeping it contained so that Marines didn't come running. Dressrosa. Garp was shaking in place, rage, shock, disbelief, hundreds of thousands of emotions ran through him at that moment. "I'm here with Akainu," a column of lava went up from Punk Hazard, "and Kizaru, a flash of light from the sky. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Will you surrender?" Kong turned the speaker snail off and smirked. "Why do you offer him the chance to surrender?" Doflamingo asked, sitting on the stairs of the dock leading into Dressrosa with some of his crew around. Violet sat behind him at the ready to use her powers to keep him updated. "You'll see." Kong kept his eyes on the granting wish, waiting for them to start. "Kuma, I need you to launch me at Punk Hazard. I'll keep Akainu busy," Kazan said, his breath chilled as he clenched his fists tightly. "This is what Kong wants, but Garp won't be in a state to lead us. We need to go with our strengths." "I'll deal with Kizaru." Bogart's feathers bristled in rage. "Garp, what about us?" Alvia asked tentatively. "As you will clearly not surrender, I will have you killed here like I should have done all those dash." Before the crew's eyes, Garp simply disappeared, and then the platform cracked. Kong's eyes widened as Garp suddenly appeared in front of him, mid-jump, freely in the air. In a single jump he had covered the several miles between them in the blink of an eye. His eyes were bloodshot as he punched Kong in the face and sent him flying back into the stairs. Well, Kong used his staff to help him stand back up. Didn't think it would be to this extent right away. Garp was shaking, his fists opening and closing, panting like a rapid beast. "Well, I'll take his bounty." Doflamingo stood up and stretched out his arm, but he was stopped when Kong held his hand out in front of him. "Not yet," Kong simply said before dodging to the side as Garp punched at where he had been standing. Before he could move again, Garp punched him in the gut. He coughed out blood and slid back. He slammed his staff into the ground and ceased his momentum. His smirk did not fall though. Perfect. Kazan landed across a field from Akainu. "Akiji," Akainu growled out. "If you want to be treated properly, little puppy, get my name right, or should I just put you down for being rapid?" Kazan created a circle of ice around him, glaring his once fellow admiral down. Akainu sked, "I will execute you, traitor." The ground around him melted into lava. The two slowly walked towards the center of the field until they were within arm's reach. Akainu turned his arm to magma and punched at Kazan. Kazan jumped back, creating a wall of ice where he had stood that Akainu easily broke. He sent several spikes of ice at him as he covered their tips in armament Haki. The heat that Akainu generated, however, melted them before they could hit. "I will melt anything you can throw at me. You can't hit me," Akainu taunted. "Think whatever the hell you want, asshole. You're giving me exactly what I need." Kazan encased half of the island in ice suddenly, then it began to encircle around Akainu. "Even the hottest flame can freeze, just need to get colder." Bogart flew and hovered in the air. He blocked an incoming blade of light, wielded by Kizaru. "Borsellino?" He greeted him. "Bogart." Kizaru returned his own greeting. He disappeared and then tried to slash at Bogart from behind, but he was blocked by one of Bogart's wings covered in armament Haki. He was pushed back and Bogart slashed at him, but he managed to turn his body to light before he was cut. Fisher Tiger ran out from within the ship and over edge. He shot through the water and jumped onto one of the submersible ships, attacking 3 Marines and knocking them out. "Fisher Tiger?" One of the Marines yelled out before Tiger kicked him off the ship. Belmir turned the ship and began exchanging fire with the enemy ships. Everyone to their stations. She yelled out, the ship rocking as she activated the engines and accelerated the ship. Kuma launched several cannonballs at the enemy ships, missing a few due to the speed they had to go at. Fisher Tiger leapt over the edge of the marine ship and punched the hull, shattering it and causing it to sink. Tiger, go after the ones trying to attack us from behind. Guion yelled out as their ship rocketed past him. Got it? Tiger yelled back, not knowing if they heard. Kazan used a pillar of ice to launch himself away from Akainu's incoming attack. Sliding across the ground, he launched several spikes at him. They got further than the last ones, but they still melted. You are fighting a losing battle. Akainu spat at him, throwing a magma ball at Kazan. He created a wall of ice and dodged to the side as it broke through the wall. He adjusted his glasses, looking over the field, decorated with ice and magma. Using ice, he slid across the ground away from Akainu's punch. Creating 3 ice knives, he threw them into the trees. You missed, Akainu smirked before he coughed up blood as a spear of ice pierced through his gut. The other 2 knives transformed, one scratching his arm and the other his shoulder. How? For the first time since he had eaten his devil fruit, he felt cold. Before there was fire, before there was heat, before there were flames, before there were embers, before there were sparks, there was ice and cold, chill and frost, blizzards and snow. Kazan spoke loudly, his voice echoing, eyes glowing blue. Something was different about him though. The way he kept his knees bent, his fingers curled, his head tilted, this wasn't how he normally fought. Holding his palm out, he took a deep breath, focusing closely. I've always had the theory, come and show me. The air around his palm became colder, his fingernails turned blue before his fingers began to turn black. Then a beam of pure ice shot out, hitting Akainu in the chest and launching him back into the frozen and burning woods. The fires he had created were frozen by Kazan, stuck between flickers. His fingers broke off from his body, frostbite from the attack, somehow, no doubt a result of him pushing his abilities to a point he had never tried before. Concentrating, he regrew them, but they were no longer flesh. The fingers of his left hand were made completely of ice now. You still have things to learn before you master my power, but you will soon understand. Kazan looked behind him to where the voice had come from, only briefly before turning back to keep an eye on where he had launched Akainu. Akainu stomped out of the woods, the front of his suit destroyed, his flesh blackened with frostbite, panting but alive. He had managed to turn the rest of the area the beam hit into magma, creating a hole so it went through him like that instead of piercing through him, the force still launching him back, but losing ground was better than death. You held back during your duties as a Marine, Akainu grunted as he stood straight. Only when the orders went against justice. Kazan flipped him off. There is only one justice. And it is absolute. Akainu yelled at him, running at him with his fists billowing out smoke. Kazan shot his left arm out and launched another beam out, launching Akainu. Frostbite creeped along his flesh, claimed his hand, then his wrist. He kept the beam going as the frostbite neared his elbow. He grunted from the pain. It had been a long time since he last felt a coldness like this. I won't let him get to the others, I refuse. Alvia, she won't be able to face him. I refuse to let him even lay eyes on her. The beam became stronger and the frostbite shot past his elbow and he stopped the beam just short before his shoulder was claimed. Kazan fell to his knees, holding onto his frostbitten arm, panting. No matter how cold you make it, Akainu growled, you can't freeze magma, only slow it down. His arm frozen in position from the frostbite, Kazan lifted it and took a deep breath. Wanna bet? Gripping his arm tightly, he shot out another beam of ice. It encased the entirety of his hand, it was so big. It hit Akainu faster than he could react, but because of the pain from the frostbite, Kazan's aim was off. It hit Akainu's right arm, his hat flying off his head because of the force of its power. Kazan let out a yell as he stopped it, the beam being active for only a second, but it was long enough for the frostbite to claim his shoulder. Kazan encased his right hand in armament hockey and cut the blackened limb off. Akainu shakily looked at his right arm, or where it had once been. His eyes shook as he looked behind and saw it in the distance, completely encased in ice, the magma fist frozen blue. Impossible, he panted out. He reached out, stumbling slightly towards the arm. If he could get it out quickly, he could reattach it. But the arm cracked within the ice, frost creeping about it, the flesh turning to ice. In the blink of an eye, his arm had been completely turned to ice. How is that possible? He shot me with ice. Not ice, Kazan grunted, creating an ice prosthetic with ease as he stood up. Frost, pure frost. Akainu grit his teeth as magma grew out from where his shoulder once was, forming in a distorted limb, more like a blob than an actual arm. The air around him began to steam, then smoke white, then black as a volcano releasing its first breath after waking from its slumber. Then I shall burn hotter than pure frost, hot enough to turn your ice to ash. Kong dodged to the side as Garp tried to grab him, growling and eyes moving around wildly. Good, his heartbeat is almost there. Kong hit Garp twice with his staff lightly, tauntingly. Garp roared and launched himself at where Kong was, but Kong had already moved away. Kong was light on his feet as he kept his eyes on Garp, until he moved his head slightly and a bullet shot past where it had been. Suru, Kong turned on one of the dendens hanging from his belt. Watch your fire. Apologies, was trying to hit Bogard, Suru answered. She'd sked and took aim again, Bogard in her sights. She could easily hit him, cripple one of his wings, but her finger was off the trigger. Come on, someone give me an opening. Bogard kicked Kizaru back, then used a flame he created at his back to rocket himself forward, but Kizaru had already dissolved into light. Damn it. He's pure light, it's next to impossible to hit him. Need to get him to stay still, the ship. Bogard spared a moment to look down and saw that the granting wish had been surrounded. Putting his eyes back on Kizaru, he observed. Kizaru wasn't actively attacking him unless he moved. Was he trying to keep him within a certain area? To keep me away from aiding Garp or Kuzan, and most likely the ship as well. Fine then, I'll play along. Bogard sheathed his tanto and held his sword to the side. Taking a deep breath, he began to twirl it around, creating a circle of flames. Sun and moon, night and day reunited twice. The flames grew bigger, moving from his sword to above him as they began to coalesce into a sphere. Our arts of love, devotion strong, let them ring. The sphere of flames rapidly grew bigger until it was as big as Punk Hazard. Total solar eclipse. Bogard held his sword to the sphere and to the sun and then pointed it at Kizaru. As it began to move at the center, the flames turned black and spread out quickly as the sphere picked up speed until only a ring of orange flames remained. Kizaru easily moved out of its way. That's not really an effective attack. Wasn't meant to take down a singular opponent. Bogard smirked as steam rose from the sea. The ships in the attack's path were panicking, but their sails and masts were already burning, and it took too long for them to submerge, not that doing so would save them. Total solar eclipse swallowed them, burning them so quick they couldn't even scream. As it hit the water, steam arose as the sphere dissolved, heating the water beneath. Tiger was staying close to the ship and I made sure to target the furthest spot from them. An interesting ability, Kizaru hummed, looking at the crater in the sea's surface that was left behind. The sea quickly filled it back up, dragging what remained of the marine ships down below. But, Kizaru looked around. Where'd he go? Suddenly Bogard flew through the steam and cut Kizaru across the back, drawing blood. Don't overestimate yourself. Bogard kicked him in the center of his back, then grabbed him by the head and flipped over him and slammed both of his feet into Kizaru's face. Kizaru flew back, nose broken and bleeding, eyes wide. In the small moment of shock he was stuck, and Bogard stabbed Kizaru in the shoulder with his tanto. You're a shit swordsman, relying on your devil fruit. Pulling Kizaru in by the tanto still stuck in his shoulder, Bogard headbutted him. Reputation given to you by your rank? Wrenching the tanto free, he swirled around and stabbed the back of Kizaru's leg with his sword, and the fear that being a marine inspires. Lifting his wings up, he slammed them down onto Kizaru's head and sent him tumbling down towards the sea. Kizaru righted himself and turned into light, bringing himself back to level with Bogard. Panting, he gingerly touched the wound on his shoulder. Looking at the blood on his hand, he felt afraid. It was next to impossible to make him bleed, let alone inflict this much damage on him so quickly. I'll need to be more careful. He created another sort of light and flew at Bogard, his strategy changing. Garp was practically frothing at the mouth, his anger possessed him so. He was swinging wildly, no variety in his attacks, no thought behind the punches, only the need to crush Kong in his fist was all he could think. Blood, 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 all he could want in that moment. The bloodlust of his berserker state had complete control over him. Kong easily moved out of the way. There it is, he's fallen into a pattern of attack. Left, Kong dodged. Right, he weaved, jab, and ducked. Jumping back, he imbued his staff with armament hockey alongside his free hand. Taking a deep breath, he held it in as he rushed forward and delivered 3 quick thrusts to Garp's chest with his staff, then hit him with the flat of his palm, creating a shockwave that sent Garp flying back, and then he released the breath. Garp coughed up blood as it poured out of his ears, nose and eyes as well. His heart wasn't able to take the prolonged overdrive it was put through when he was in the state, and Kong's attack had just forced it stop for a second while blood still flowed. Garp's body locked up as he landed, still upright but he couldn't move, the shock to his system caused by the attack forcing everything to halt, refusing to listen to anything he tried to do. Now! Kong yelled at Doflamingo, who lashed out with his strings, pulling all the debris into the air, then slamming it all on top of Garp. Garp, currently stuck in his berserker state and his body locked up by Kong's attack, was unable to do anything, not even use his armament hockey. The debris slammed into him, crushing him beneath all of its weight. The only thing left of him that could be seen was his right hand tightly gripped in a fist. Excellent! Kong smiled as he took a flare gun from his coat and shot it into the air. Fusha Village. Grandpa! Nearly all of the kids yelled out except for Luffy. Cosette and Ichiji began to cry while the others all began to cycle through stages of grief, unable to accept what they just witnessed. Yumi's killer was always his weakness. Kong must have been saving it in his back pocket in case of Garp ever turning traitor. Sengoku looked down somberly. Dragon grit his teeth. Kong? He growled. Luffy was the only one still looking at the feed. Gramps, get up, come on. Rosinante frowned. Luffy? Since Garp had started his crusade, Luffy had been looking up to him much like Shanks. You wouldn't give up like this. Luffy yelled at the feed. Get up and fight. Dressrosa. Sarah's was shaking. She had been gazing upon the fight while firing at the marine ships. Sarah's who shot that flare. Belmere yelled through the speaker system. Captain. Sarah's almost dropped her gun. Captain's dead. Belmere's eyes widened before they steeled. Bullshit. If I don't see a body, then he's not dead. Keep firing, we'll figure this out later. Kong walked to the edge of the docks and stared towards Punk Hazard, where he could see pillars of magma shooting about, some of them ending up frozen somehow. He turned on one of the dendens hanging from his belt. Kizaru, come grab me and get me to Punk Hazard. Monkey D. Garp is dead, that's what the flare means, Kizaru said to Bogard. Bogard froze, eyes wide in horror. It was the perfect opportunity to attack. Kizaru, Kong ordered. Kizaru dissolved into light and flew through the air. Reaching an arm out, he grabbed Kong and while slowed down carried him to Punk Hazard quickly. Throw me, then go deal with Bogard. Kong commanded. He was launched forward, hitting the ground running. Rushing forward, he used the ice and slid towards Kazan and slammed his staff into his right leg. Kazan let out a yell as the armament-infused staff hit his knee, and with Kong's continued movement, it was ripped off, leaving an arc of blood on the ice. Kazan fell to the ground and was then kicked away by Akainu. I see you lost your arm, Kong observed as he listened, and then slashed his staff through the air and fell a large swath of the forest, revealing the granting wish in combat with the marine ships. I'm sorry I didn't finish him off sooner, Akainu apologized. It's fine, Garp is dead, Kong smirked at Kazan's horrified face. Come along. Kong turned on 3 of his dendens, prepare to fire on Kazan's location. Kizaru returned to the sky. Looking around, he couldn't see Bogard, whom must have gone to attack the ships. Best get dash. Twin rainbow strike. Bogard yelled out, both his blades wreathed in multicolor flames, cutting an X into Kizaru's chest. Kizaru screamed out. He had managed to begin turning himself to light, but Bogard had still cut him. The pain he felt was different from Bogard's previous attacks. Even as he fully turned into light, the pain did not cease and the flames were doused. They followed him, coloring his yellow light with colors that had never touched it before. Kizaru reformed, patting at the flames, trying to put them out. What are these flames? Loss of the new moon. Bogard created a giant sphere of black flames and threw it at Kizaru. Before his eyes it disappeared, then his clothes began to burn. Invisible flames? Kizaru screamed in his head as his voice grew hoarse. I'll kill all of you. Bogard yelled at him, tears brimming in his eyes. Flare of the dying sun. Arcs of flames shot out, burning brightly at first before beginning to shrink into string-thin attacks. But as they neared Kizaru, they exploded, encompassing him in a mini-sun that then fizzled out. Kizaru reformed farther away, panting, eyes wide in panic. He's bringing out all of the cards. Kong looked at the spectacle in the sky Bogard was creating with his attacks. Shame we can't fly. Once Kazan is dead, we'll drag Bogard down here to deal with him. Come on, we need to get out of the way of the cannon fire, he told Akainu. Kazan looked at them, but he couldn't see them. Garp, dead? No. Why'd you and there it is. Ice built itself around Kazan, the winds picked up. You're wrong. He rebuilt his leg with an ice prosthetic. Kong and Akainu turned to look back at him. Garp wouldn't die before he killed you, Kong. You wouldn't leave us at risk. I won't believe anything you say, never. The ice continued to build around him as he stood back up, stumbling only once, but his eyes burned with rage. Speak the word, claim your true power, begin to remember. Kazan stood tall, A word that had been in the back of his mind, something he knew but didn't know how he knew or how to speak it until now, Fimbulwinter. He was swallowed by a blizzard, disappearing from sight of everyone. The field he and Akainu had battled and vanished into the storm. A blizzard? But didn't he eat the ice fruit? Kong scratched his chin. Akainu grunted. He managed to shoot me with frost. It is confusing. Suddenly a loud groan was heard. A giant fist shot out and punched